Hello, I'm Harp, and today I'm welcoming you to Rule Book Room. This room has been created for both of us, you and me, to understand certain legal principles. I think it's important to understand that to be your strongest, to be your most confident, you need to know the most basic thing, the foundation. And therefore, what we are going to do is that we are going to concentrate in understanding what the cases are so that we know what the law is. After all, the cases are practical example for us to understand how the application of the law is done. So, what I suggest to you is keep your paper, pen, bare act, and case material handy with you. If you don't have a case material, why don't you just Google the case name that I'm going to discuss with you today, and then we can look into the judgment of that case. Surajmani Stella Kujar versus Durga Charan Hansdaya, 2001 case discusses Section 2 of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Section 2 is an interesting section. The title of this section is Applicability of the Statute. Of course, Hindu law is a personal law, and therefore, we need to know who is that person who is going to be governed under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Therefore, the legal question, or rather, question of law, understood under Section 2 is who is a person we can designate as Hindu for the purposes of applicability of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. A person is a Hindu. He is Hindu by religion, Hindu by birth, or Hindu by conversion or reconversion. When you say Hindu by religion, it means a person who is professing the religion of Hinduism. It is to be understood as Hindu under Section 2. This section also accommodates Jain, Sikh, Buddhist. So Hindu by religion are Hindu, Jain, Sikh, Buddhist. A person may not be a Hindu by religion. He may not be professing or practicing the religion of Hinduism, which also includes Jainism, Sikhism, and Buddhism. It doesn't mean we have to leave him out of the purview of Section 2. So, what Section 2 is stating to us further is that a person who is Hindu by birth can also be understood as a Hindu. It means if a person have both parents as Hindu, he is also a Hindu. If one of the parent is a Hindu and the child has been brought up as a Hindu, then the child will be considered as a Hindu. Interesting thing that you will have to notice is the usage of the word child legitimate or illegitimate. So law is not concerning itself how the child's legal status is standing with regard to the fact that can Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 have any kind of application on this particular child. Third kind is when a Hindu is Hindu by conversion or reconversion. When you say conversion, it means that this particular person was professing some other religion and then thought of converting into a Hindu. He will be considered as a Hindu under Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Similarly, if a person is a Hindu, he converts to another faith and then comes back to the same faith, he will be considered as a Hindu under Section 2. And last of all, Hindu is also a person who is considered under Section 2 not a Muslim, not a Christian, not a Jew, not a Parsi. So some community members are excluded and then others are understood as Hindu. So exclude a Muslim, Christian, Jew, or Parsi, the remaining ones can be considered as Hindu under Section 2 of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Now, look at subsection 2 of section 2, which states categorically that members of scheduled tribe are kept outside of the purview of section 2. It means members of scheduled tribe will not have any governance of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 on them. Rather, what has been understood in context of Indian Constitution also is that they will be governed by their own customs and usages. Now coming back to the case law that is at hand. Stella Kujar, she's the wife, and Durga Charan, he's the husband. It's a case where husband marries for the second time. Now, let me remind you Section 5 of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, under its first clause, states very categorically that neither of the parties at the time of the marriage should have a living spouse. Section 11 further makes this contravention of Section 5 of Clause 1 as a marriage which is void in its status, meaning thereby that Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 is making itself clear in discouraging polygamy or polyandry. What it is encouraging is monogamy, in other words. Now, it's a long discussion as to whether Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 should have encouraged monogamy or shouldn't have. But then let me just state one little point as to what is the rationale behind it. The rationale is to safeguard the rights of female. Yes, yes, it is a female favoring statute. The wife belongs to Oraon and husband belongs to Santhal tribe. The ambiguity pertaining to Section 2, subsection 2, applicability on the parties' marriage, is that with regard to the fact that both the parties profess Hinduism. She's filing a case under Section 494 of IPC, which is dealing with bigamy as an offense. Mind you, the appellant is alleging that there is a custom in tribe that mandates monogamy as a rule. He could not have solemnized the second marriage. And if he had done so, he is an offender and he has committed an offense under Section 494 of IPC. Now, the case is about has he committed the offense under Section 494 of IPC or not? The first observation that was made by Supreme Court was regarding the definition provided under Section 3 Clause A of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, which states that custom can take the force of law. Yes, all we need to see is that prerequisites are satisfied. These prerequisites are that custom should be ancient, meaning that it should be followed for a very long time or since antiquity. It should be certain, it should be uniform, it should be continuous, it should be not unreasonable, it definitely should not be against public policy. Unfortunately, the appellant wife in this case, who had to bear the burden of proving the alleged custom, she actually fails to discharge that burden. She is failing to show the court that there is a custom which is mandating monogamy. No, there wasn't any custom. Now I'm reading out verbatim what has been stated by the Supreme Court. It says in its order, to prove the second marriage void, the appellant was under an obligation to show the existence of a custom which made such marriage null, ineffectual, having no force of law or binding effect, incapable of being enforced in law, or non-essent, means that it does not exist. The facts of the second marriage being void is sine qua non, means essential for the applicability of Section 494 of IPC. It is settled position of law that for fastening criminal liability, the prosecution or the complainant is obliged to prove the existence of all the ingredients constituting the crime, which are normally and usually defined by a statute. Well, after reading this passage, it is very clear that the wife was failing in discharging her burden of proof, where she had to prove it to the court that there was an alleged custom mandating monogamy. Ultimately, what was held by Supreme Court was that no offense of bigamy was made out. Section 494 of IPC was not made out. Unfortunately, in this case, the wife does not get any relief. The parties were members of Scheduled Tribe according to subsection 2 of Section 2 of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. They were outside of the purview of the statute. Unfortunately, the wife did not get any relief under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Well, thank you everyone for joining in the rule book room. Hope to see you again with another judgment. Bye.